Good afternoon, gardening friends. Let's see, today's what I think June 13th, and once again I'm starting a chapter in the middle of the month, mainly because it takes me so long after the end of the month to finish editing. And anyway, I'm back at my parents' place. I've just released a video, another DIY-ery, about the sprinkler system out on the front lawn, and since that finally got finished, the question was, okay, well, what do you want to do next? And this is part of it. We have a sprinkler head that comes up here. Sorry. Now, actually, look at my shadow there. It'll be easier to see. Sprinkler head that comes up here from a pipe that's right in here. And so we've tapped off of that. We're actually dropping down because we actually want to run the pipe up this way. We're ultimately going to put in drip irrigation for these two large pots, and so all of this effort is mostly for those two pots, but we'll be able to expand the system to carry all of the flowers up in the terracing here. And of course I've got everything moved, and there is the weird funky pipe that I've assembled, and the hard part of it now is getting this piece in and hooked under right here. It's going to hook in sort of like that, if that makes sense. The trick is I've got to actually dig down deep enough to push the pipe down far enough and then pull it back up with the glue. But that's kind of the project I'm working on today, and we'll see how this goes. Okay, things seem to be going all right. Pressure test was good. Yeah, that's really messy blue on that, but it goes down, it goes up, and now it connects to black flexible pipe which runs across the back. And actually I'm going to cut it down, but for the moment I kept they gave us 50 feet with the kit, and so it's running behind the barbecue and around and ultimately into one of the deck drains, so that I can flush the system before I install the rest of the stuff. And I'm not going to make a huge, hopefully not make a huge mess of the back deck. Okay, so the sprinklers are running, and let's look over here. Last time I looked, we didn't have any leaks, and since I hooked up the tubing, no problem there. Now we can come over here and see at 25 psi how much flow we actually have. Oh, I made a little bit of a mess, but that's good. Alright, that should flush out the system. Then I can start adding the tiny little drippers. Good afternoon, gardening friends. Well, it's been a while since I've done this, but I'm back at my parents' place the next day. I seem to take a day off a lot, but we were looking at the heat, the projected heat wave here in Southern California. It is currently, according to the weather app on my phone, 88 degrees, and it's looking to get 95. No, actually today was predicted 95, tomorrow is predicted like 99, and then it's going to be like or hovering around 100 for a few more days after that. So figured, even though it'll be hot, it won't be as hot as the day after, so let's kind of try and get some work done. So we've done the front yard. Actually, Dad took care of the front yard, sort of cleaning up all the plants, trimming stuff back, and I hit the side yard over here, so this should look a little bit better than before. And what else? Oh, I didn't give you an update. I didn't finish with the drip irrigation. That all worked out yesterday, so I won't even bother showing. I'll show you at some point, I'm sure, but it seems like it's working. And we really only water here twice a week, so we're really going to have to wait until Saturday, and it's Wednesday now because they went off yesterday. We only water on Tuesdays and Saturdays. So that's kind of where we are, and I think that's it for the day. Good afternoon, gardening friends. It is now, what is it? It's Saturday, the 17th, I believe, and it's about time to put a little bit more color back in the garden. I do have the pinwheel, that helps. I just repaired my simple little bird feeder, which I've actually been watching the birds, and it's been pretty cool. The repair, it was leaning over, so I decided to basically pull it out of the ground. You can see the old hole there. Another hole where I made an attempt to put it back in, bang it in with a hammer, get it to be a bit more solid again. I could probably build a much better structure than this, but I was just trying to keep it simple. And as I did it, I dropped a ton of bird seed on the ground, so they'll be enjoying that for a little while. Then I noticed that the simple little, what do you call it, little saucer that you put under the pots there, I'm sure there's a name for it, if it's not saucer, but that simple little plastic one somehow had like a hole burned in it, so I just put a second one in there. I've actually stapled it to the board, actually the one underneath, because I noticed that the birds when they take off, they actually take off with so much force that the whole thing vibrates, and it was moving that little saucer over to the point where it actually fell off at one point. So that's kind of where we are on that. I've got it fixed up so now they can enjoy some bird seed. And I went out today and I did some recycling, and I used the money to buy some new plants to add some color. So we kind of clean up. Gardeners have already been here, but more leaves have fallen. So I'm going to clean up around here. I have some coffee grounds that I can put down, create that sort of river effect again. Who knows how long that'll last, but I can try. And I'm going to insert some of the marigolds in the pots here with the 4 o'clocks, because as you can see, something is eating them, and I've got some little sort of disease on it, but we'll see if the marigolds help out. Also, they had some coleus, which was really nice, so I'm going to use that in some of the pots that don't have much, and we'll see how much bigger it gets. I've done that before in the my old apartment, and they seem to enjoy the shade. They're okay with the shade, or as it is, sort of dappled sun. So that's the plan, and I'll come back when I'm done. Okay, well, I think that looks a little bit better. Maybe I'll go around and give you a little different view. But when I started, it was 95 degrees. I thought it might go down, but it's actually 96 now, at least according to the app on my phone. So you can kind of see what this all looks like. Little punches of color everywhere. And even a little bit over here. So we'll follow this and see what happens. Well, it's Friday, I think it's the 23rd, back at Mom and Dad's place. Already been here a few hours, kind of from this side I can sort of, well, you can't really see it too well, but I've already mowed the lawn and kind of cleaned up around there. Now I'm looking back up at this sumac, and it's already growing back again. But I don't think I'm going to go completely crazy over that today. That could go another week before we try and attack it again. It could actually probably go a couple of months, and then we could just cut it all down and do all that again. Anyway, I'm going to try and clean up around here, clean up down there. But if you kind of look, you can see the other side of the driveway is a bit more manicured. So here we go. Okay, I have to admit I'm a little tired of looking at, I had 2 of these giant sticks. Well, to deal with it, I've pulled out the Sawzall. Although it did take me going through a couple of blades before I figured out that those were dull. Finally found a sharp one. So, we'll cut it into pieces, throw it in the green trash, and keep going. Okay, well, that's cleaned up. Sidewalk's cleaned up. No, I didn't blow it. Didn't use the blower. Honestly, I could blow it and make it look perfect, and then 5 minutes later it'd be a bunch of leaves coming off of these eucalyptus trees. So it's not really worth. At least get the majority of it off, get the beds cleaned up, and now I have the challenge of dealing with the lawn, figuring out some of the sprinklers, because on what we're calling zone 1, where I did so much work moving sprinklers around, including putting one right there, putting one over there. Well, anyway, you can watch the DIY-ery on sprinklers to see what I did. But unfortunately what's happening, and I don't know if I can get this in the picture here, I mean, that's got to grow back after burying a pipe underneath. I had to dig it all up, so a bunch of stuff needs to grow back. But when I mowed the lawn today, I pulled up quite a bit of grass, or cut off quite a bit of grass, so it's really growing nicely where it's growing. But where it's not growing, it's about the center of the picture now. It seems like somehow between this little head that was so much work and the wall that it's supposed to cover, which it does seem like that grass over there is greener and was growing nice and thick, but in between it's not growing. So I need to start up the sprinklers and then walk through them to get to this one to adjust it. First I'll start them up and just kind of look at what's happening. But that's that, and then I got a couple more sprinkler heads that can go over in the side yard that are connected to zone 2. So I got a little bit more work today. Well, have you ever started a project or just started a day of work and you get towards the end and you hit that one last thing where you're like, yeah, one more thing and I'm done for the day, and it turns into a total fiasco? Well, I was going to get all 3 sprinkler heads on this side, and the 2 on the ends I was going to set up with a head like this, which, so obviously I've gotten one of them done, and the middle one was going to get capped. But here's me digging down and down and down, and it's probably like 6 o'clock now. The sun, well, the sun's going to be out for another couple hours, but it's getting lower. And the other thing is that they poured the concrete footing for this. They poured it around the pipe, and they pushed the pipe that way when they did. So trying to thread anything in that's taller than this concrete support makes it more difficult, the concrete foundation of that. So the question is, do I bust out some of the concrete, or do I just simply, since I'm capping it off, cap it off below grade? And I think that's what I'm going to do, is just cap it off below grade. I'll go find a shorter riser, and I've got a cap, and I'll just go ahead and try that. But then I got to deal with this one over here, which I think it may be slightly less than round, and that may be why nothing seems to want to thread on it. So first I got to deal with that one, then I'll be back over here. Hopefully I get it all done before the sun does go down. Well, what is it they say? It's always darkest just before the dawn. I had to make a couple of compromises, but that is what they call a close nipple. It's basically the absolute minimum size riser. I just happened to have one. Actually, Mom found it amongst other things. It just slipped out in the midst of all sorts of other stuff. So thanks to Mom, we've got this one capped. So that's that. And then part of the reason why I had to do so much there with this pipe was when I went to go unscrew the pipe. Actually, when I went to go unscrew, well, anyway, point was that's all basically kind of welded together. And when I went to go remove the pipe, it all decided to come out. So it went all transmitted all the way down to the bottom to where it came out, and that's what caused all of that. And speaking of Mom, so I managed to save this one. So I am now cleaning up tools. So that's it for, hopefully that's it for today. Good morning, gardening friends. It is now Wednesday the 28th, I think. And I just wanted to show you what the lawn looks like. I have not mowed. I'm here today to do some yard work. But I wanted to show you the lawn before I actually get to mowing it, and kind of take a look at how the sprinkler readjustment last Friday is working out. And while this section over here, which was kind of dying, is actually looking a little bit better, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I do notice that Over here the blades of grass seem longer than more towards the center, but I don't know that that's really, I mean, the question is if that's zone 2, but zone 2 extends out to kind of the center of the lawn, or basically it's supposed to extend out to, if you kind of follow that line going along, so about half of it's good and the other half not so good. But it does seem like in the areas where it's a little shadier, the blades of grass are longer. So it's where the sun's really hitting it that it's not as long. So I don't think it's a problem with zone 2. I think it's a kind of a problem with the sun, and maybe just waiting. Maybe the sun is actually drying out the water. Well, I'll have to think about it and try and figure it out. But the alternative to try and get this all growing, I mean, it is growing in nicely right there. I mean, it still looks like a patch, but it's doing better. Over here, it's recovering fairly nicely. I know we've kind of got the shade blocking the view. You see if I walk into the shade, if that helps a little, so you can see. It is kind of growing back. Over here it's not so good, but you go a little further over and it's doing much better. And I think that's okay. I can see the grass has died there, so we're just going to have to wait for it all to fill in. So anyway, I got some thinking to do, trying to figure out if there's a problem or if we just need to give it more time. Meanwhile, apparently they've got a plant. They're ready to go. And I want to put that in here to replace the holly that was in there, which got spindly over the years and pretty much died. So that's my first task, is taking care of this, and then I'm going to mow the lawn and we'll figure out where to go from there. Okay, so I'm not sure how clear this is going to be in explanation or in visual here, but this turned out to be a lot of hard digging. It's very rocky soil around here. I mean, like ledge almost. So I ended up pulling out everything I could think of. We've got like the cold chisel kind of stuff. I even pulled out the cat's paw at one point. And then I eventually moved up to the gigantic crowbar. The shovel wasn't doing a whole lot, so I'm having to dig it out by hand. But ultimately now I have a pile of soil that I've dug out of there. And I've started putting the gravelly stuff back in at the bottom, because I've actually managed to dig down a little deeper than the pot that the plant came in. So it actually says on the pot to go twice as deep and twice as wide. Well, twice as deep isn't going to happen. That's like 10 inches, and I'm down about 11 now. Trying to get down to 20 would take me all freaking day and just isn't worth it. So I'm going to put gravel from what I dug out, some of the bigger pieces, back in at the bottom, and until the pot sits at the proper level there. And then I'm going to fill it back in with half and half the stuff I dug out and some better topsoil, and fertilize and water the heck out of it. And then I got to figure out this sprinkler head here, how that's going to play into it, or if we need to make a change here. But this has taken me probably a couple hours already. Hopefully I'll get this and the lawn done by the end of the day. Well, folks, I don't know if you're going to be able to hear it. There are sirens off in the distance. There are helicopters. And now I've got ash falling on me. The only sort of thing missing for you would be the itchy eyes and the smell of burning birch. That's what it smells like. And it looks like the fire is up over here. I don't know how close that is, but I can certainly hear the choppers. I don't know if I'll be able to. I doubt you'll be able to see them, so I think it's far enough away. I'm not going to worry about it. But welcome to Southern California in fire season. Early fire season, but fire season. Meanwhile, it kind of looks like I knew what I was doing, doesn't it? It was a big mess before, now it's all cleaned up, heavily watered in, fertilized, ready to go. So we got something else to track the progress of. But actually, since I finished that last bit, it's probably been a good half hour, 45 minutes, so by now you can probably hear the helicopters, and let me give you an update. I still don't know exactly where the fire is, but I'm sure from past experience it's not quite as close. But let's take a look at the smoke again. I mean, yeah, it's scary. I don't mean to be nonchalant about a fire. Something's going on back there. I wanted to finish up the lawn and get some other stuff done, just so I could quit and go inside and breathe healthier air for a bit. And then maybe I'll head for home. We'll see. I gotta find out what's actually going on with this fire. Well, this may be really hard to see. The stationary choppers are the news stations. And sometimes you can see one moving. I can certainly hear them. It's now a little after 5. Probably like an hour after the last thing I recorded. I've been watching the news. The fire's been knocked down. Not completely. But yeah, see, I can see one going by now. Yeah, right about in the center of your screen. That looks to be fire department. Not like I'm gonna get you a shot of a water drop, but as the crow flies, it's basically over the hill. There's a little bit of a ridge there, which is a lot closer. Well, there you go. Yeah, hose hanging out the bottom. He's going somewhere. Unfortunately, the sun's in the way. He's going somewhere to pick up water. I'm not sure where. Anyway, they've got it fairly well under control, but there's still hot spots here and there, and so that's why you're seeing helicopters going by. I don't think it means that the fire's any closer, especially I'm not seeing any smoke in the sky anymore. But this is kind of what it's like dealing with a fire. That's not that close. It's probably less than a mile away, but you know, this is Southern California. I've had other reports on this channel when I've encountered fires in the past. This may be the first one I'm doing with this camera, which isn't perfect. I don't know if you can see the dead pixels kind of centered in the top there. I'm gonna try and hide them. So, but anyway, it's kind of what it's like. So maybe I'll stick around just long enough. Okay, there's another fire chopper going by. My screen's not big enough for me to be able to see how it resolves when it's so small. So I don't know if I've got him centered or not. I hear something else coming. Maybe not. But family's all okay. At least one person is called to check on us. That's nice to know. So anyway, I guess I'll wrap it up for now. If anything crazy happens, I'll update this. Okay folks, so it's now Friday. It's the last day of the month. It's near the end of the day. I'm back at Mom and Dad's. I'm pretty worn out actually. It's only in the low 80s, but it's 50% humidity. And I know those of you that see this, that live in the South and in the East, are saying, he's whining about what? So, I actually used to live in the East. I have family in the South, so I know exactly what you're talking about. But it does suck the energy out of you. So, anyway, getting back to The lawn is actually looking a little bit better, and it's only been a couple of days. So that's either my imagination or we're doing well. But still, there's the problem that's been nagging at me, which was zone 2 on the sprinklers. And so I looked at the zones. Actually, I thought I had looked at them carefully, and then Dad pointed out to me, these are the newer electric valves where you can adjust the pressure, and pressure has been one of the things that I've been having issues with. So I tested zone 2 last, I don't know if it was Wednesday or if it was last Friday when I was here, and it tested at 65 psi, which is too much for the newer sprinkler heads, which I believe are around 35, rated around 35 for the proper performance. So the key is trying to figure out how to get the pressure down, and I thought we had to get a regulator and all the rest of that. Turns out on these style valves, there's that little cross, I hope you can see it, right in the center of the picture there. And you can basically just turn that up and down, and what that does is adjust the amount of water flowing through, effectively regulating the pressure. So that is what I'm going to try. I had to turn it on, but one benefit was I got to flush the system. I left the cap off of, or the nozzle off of one of them, flushed the system, and then figured out which of these two valves was zone 2. It's the one furthest from us, and so I am now going to put the gauge back on where I took the nozzle off, and then see what happens when I turn it up and down. It's going to be a lot of running around, but we'll see what we can do. Okay, so I got a little sidetracked, and when my niece and her friend came over to swim in the backyard in the pool there, so family kind of came together for a little bit. Now we're all kind of, it's not a typical Friday, something just dropped on the lawn there. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you that ultimately I got zone 2 tuned up. Boy, I say that 5 times quickly. And zone 1, I basically decided, all right, I'm not going to mess with it. I'm a little too tired, and once I change the pressure on that particular valve, then I'm going to have to chase down all the sprinkler valves in the lawn and everything that went over on the other side of the driveway, and it's just going to be too much work. So I mean, it's more than 15-20 minutes work, so it's just not worth doing today. That's pretty much it for this month, folks. Aside from maybe showing you what it looks like at home, the marigolds and the coleus are growing nicely. The marigolds, I'm not seeing so much flowers, mostly greenery, but the coleus, which is already leaves, is doing beautifully. I'll put a picture, maybe, you know what, that's what I'll do. I'm going to wrap up the video with a picture of my garden at home. But as far as here, up at my parents' place, pretty much done for the month. And we'll see what comes. Well, welcome to the end of chapter 6. The end of June. It's actually July 1st, and it looks like I might actually get this video out tonight. So I just wanted to wrap up with what it looks like here at home, at my home. And you can see the coleus are actually doing quite nicely. I haven't really examined things too closely, but you're seeing it as I am. The polka dot plant is doing wonderfully. It's turned kind of darker, but it's doing well. I need to pull all the leaves out. The gardeners have been through here. The one thing, the marigold, most of the plants, it seems like the flowers have died off, but they're still green. So I do know that the neighbor that turns on the water from time to time, the sprinkler system around here, and it does water my plants. They've been doing that, so that's good. They're getting water even if I neglect them. The 4 o'clocks are doing beautifully. I'm trying to see what this is. Is that a... no, that's just a curl on a leaf. They're not looking as decimated as before, so maybe the marigold, even though there's no flowers, is doing okay. I'm going to swing around here and show you down below. So you can see the flowers are not doing all that well. We've got a third 4 o'clock doing okay, and you can see the flowers are not doing so well. So I'm going to have to figure that out. Maybe I can throw a little bit of fertilizer in there. Just some balanced fertilizer, I don't go crazy. The live oak, at least I assume it is. Nobody's told me differently. That's got a ton of leaves in the bottom, but the plant is doing beautifully, even though I don't know that the sprinklers actually make it over here. We got more coleus over there, and we've got another, well, we've got this purple orchid tree. A lot of the leaves have fallen off. That's not encouraging. And I didn't put any marigold down in the bottom. But then there's that last one over there is a younger purple orchid, and it's got marigold and no flowers. But that's just kind of giving you an idea what it looks like. There was this other experiment I had tried, which is now full of leaves. And let me actually just, this is going to be a little shaky. I just want to see if there's any moisture at all. Now the seeds, yeah, there's no moisture. Oops, sorry, there's no moisture in there at all. And let me just pull the leaves out. The seeds I put in there may not have been viable, and I've been neglecting it, so that never really got anywhere. But that pretty much tells you what it looks like here at home. I've been spending most of my time at Mom and Dad's place helping them out. Oh, and I did want to tell you, the bird feeder, I did make an improvement on that. The board that was on there wasn't doing well, and I had another board that was already pre-cut for another project that never got done. So I nailed that on and re-stapled it, and that's okay. I'm now considering whether or not to actually relocate this for totally unrelated reasons. But if I do, I think what I learned was when I bang on the top there that cedar board is not all that strong, and that's why it split last time. So what I'll probably do is try and attach something to that leg and then bang it in from the attachment, not from the top. But that's what the garden looks like here. And I think that's it for the month. So this is the Budget Gardener signing off, saying may your thumb be green.